Louisiana versus all y'all. Jarrett Roser with David Helman of NFL on Fox, the NFL on Fox pod. He's been on the channel before a little ways back, and happy to have him talk a little bit about what to expect this NFL season, because only one of us is going to Las Vegas this weekend, and I'm not that one. And so we would need to talk about anything but LSU for a little bit because the FOMO is raging fiercely. What's up, man?
It's good to see you, buddy. God, I'm so excited to LSU football in Las Vegas feels like it should be illegal. I'm just not sure. I don't know that the world is ready for that, but I can't wait to try.
And this is going to send you further through the roof because Will Campbell's outlook as of an hour and a half ago or whatever at player interviews was essentially he doesn't know that people are ready, and he is very excited to open a lot of eyes on Sunday. Um, if you need to be any more excited about
Man,
LSU football right now, listen to the 8 minutes of Will Campbell later tonight.
I hope to God he's right. I'm so tired of starting the season 0-1. I'm so tired of losing the opener. I'm excited. Expectations are high, but man, I don't care if it's the ugliest game ever. I'm just sick of having my opening weekend ruined.
No doubt. Tigers trying to win their first season opener since 2019, back when Josh Williams was a walk-on scout team running back and LSU was still trying to figure out, is Joe Burrow that guy? And we hadn't heard of COVID yet and all of those things.
Dude, I know we're going to talk about the NFL, but I saw they gave Josh 18 and they were like national champion Josh Williams, and I was like, "What? Are you like I don't think I even knew that." And it made me feel so old, and I'm sure it probably made him feel old too. But anyway.
Yeah, he talked about it some during some of the post games last year, and I was talking to Sam Spiegelman for this week's recruiting show earlier about, I feel like particularly outside of NFL, when you're talking about college and high school sports, we have, and I guess it's the same with you guys as well. The year gets segmented in ways that makes a single year feel like 3 years long. And so when a guy's been in college for 5 or 6 years, it feels like they've been there for 20 essentially.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at with Josh. But we'll get a chance to see those guys on Sunday night against USC, obviously. And as much attention as I am locked in paying them all year, I was telling you, I go into the NFL season and am not a complete blank slate, but I do feel like I've been under a rock for months at a time and come into the new season still trying to play catch up. And so don't know that there's a better person to kind of catch me up to some degree than you, at least not a text message away. So
Thanks, brother. I'll do my best.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate your time for sure. And I think in general, it's hard to miss the run that the Kansas City Chiefs are on right now. They've been in four of the last five Super Bowls and won three of them, have won the last two. And as far as starting there and what your outlook is for the big picture this season, for someone like me that's coming in with limited background of what this offseason has held, what are you watching in terms of, can the Chiefs keep this thing rolling, or just the biggest storylines you're watching going in as folks try to catch up?
You know what's funny is we're in a run of unprecedented dominance by NFL standards. This is supposedly the most parity driven league, and everybody's got a chance and all those cliches, but the Chiefs are running this thing, man. I mean, basically since Patrick Mahomes got the starting job, they've never missed an AFC title game. They've won 3 Super Bowls. They might have 4 Super Bowls if they don't lose their offensive tackles when they played Tom Brady a few years back. And yeah, I think that's the dominant storyline. It's the Chiefs versus all y'all, really, is who can get in Kansas City's way. And just for perspective, I mean, the Chiefs are already the first back-to-back NFL champion since the Patriots 20 years ago. And now they're going for a three-peat, which is truly unprecedented. It's never happened in the Super Bowl era. Only a handful of teams have even gotten close to doing it. And I think the only time it's ever happened in league history was the Green Bay Packers back when the Super Bowl was first starting out, like the 1965, 66, 67 Packers. In other words, the teams that got the trophy named after Vince Lombardi, That's what the Chiefs are chasing right now. Like that's what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey and everybody else are going after. So I think that is the dominant storyline. But the reason why I say it's ironic is even if we kind of assume that the Chiefs are going to be in the conversation at the end of the year, there are so many great players and interesting storylines with this season, like on the way there. Like there's so many great quarterbacks. Our guy Joe Burrow is coming back from an injury this year. He'll have a chance to resume his role as the spoiler. He's the only guy that's really been able to get in Patrick Mahomes' way other than Tom Brady. Lamar Jackson is coming off of his second MVP. The Ravens are still great. Josh Allen, we'll see if he can kind of carry a lessened version of the Buffalo Bills deep into the postseason. What about these young quarterbacks that have kind of come out of nowhere? You know, I think a lot of people liked CJ Stroud. I don't think anybody saw him doing what he did last year. So how does he build on that? Jordan Love is the other one. You know, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the world over a 10-game stretch last year. Can he keep that going? And then you've got some really fantastic teams. I mean, the Detroit Lions arguably should have been in the Super Bowl. They blew a 17-point lead. That whole team is back. Like basically all of the important pieces of that team are back. They'll make another go at it under head coach Dan Campbell. The San Francisco 49ers, who we last saw losing the Super Bowl in overtime, they're bringing back, well, I guess we can't say all of the key pieces. We'll have to see what happens with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams. They're dealing with some contracts. I guess you call it the price of your own success, but the 49ers are every bit expected to be a player for this thing. So yeah, I mean, if I had to handicap it right now, I'm giving the Chiefs a sizable lead. But there are a lot of really fun teams and really great quarterbacks that should be able to give them a run for their money this year.
You apparently called the CD Lamb contract in the bottom of your second Dos Equis 2 months ago, and they finally get that thing sorted out. So, do you need to just open a sixer and figure out, okay, where's Ayuk going to end up? What's going on with Trent? Is that
No,
the solution here? Is just get a sixer and call a couple of these GMs and be like, look, this is the deal. You can wait and waste time if you want, but I've got it for you now.
I wish I was that good. That's what I said too, is like that's really more about the Cowboys being very stubborn and very predictable. Like Justin Jefferson signed in early June for 140 million, 110 million guaranteed. I looked at that and I was like, okay, CD Lamb has been one notch below Justin Jefferson and arguably about the same, really. And like this is a Louisiana podcast. Of course, we all love Jets, but CD Lamb has been right there every step of the way. They have had very similar careers. So just give
Hey,
him
I, Opelousas born. They're both
that's
Louisiana guys by birth,
I didn't want to
kind
bring
of.
it up just because sometimes I think about the fact that CD is from Opelousas and didn't go to Louisiana or didn't go to LSU, and it makes me so sad. Not that we need any more great receivers, but like I just want all of them. Like I want every great receiver to go to LSU's anyway. But CD is incredible. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, so just give him 4 million less than what Jets got, and let's call it a day. And sure enough, that's what happened. The Ayuk thing is weird because Ayuk wants to be a $30 million receiver. The 49ers are basically like, hey, man, we already have 8 all pros on this roster, and we might have to pay Brock Purdy when this season is over. What do you want us to do? So then the Niners were like, all right, we'll trade you somewhere that's willing to pay you. And from everything I can tell, Ayuk is like, well, I don't want to go there, though. I want to play for y'all because y'all are great. Like, we're going to probably get to the Super Bowl. And they're like, okay, well, which is it, Brandon? Like, do you want the most money or do you want to play for the best team? And we've just kind of been in this weird stalemate where a decision hasn't been made. So we're running out of time. We got about 11 days, 10 days until the regular season starts. I would imagine it's got to get sorted out soon. But at the same time, I never thought this would still be a storyline. Like I thought he would either get a new deal in San Francisco or get traded weeks ago, and we're still kind of just hanging out. So we'll see what happens.
You mentioned, I mean, the Lions opportunity last year versus the Niners opportunity last year versus the Chiefs. And so as much as we go into another year where the Chiefs are viewed as the favorite to win everything, and the Niners are probably viewed as the favorite to come out of the NFC. Who are you most confident in? You listed a couple of the dynamics of some of these other teams. Who do you have the most confidence in to play spoiler to a potential rematch? And I mean, you could also have the caveat of your biggest spoiler to the Niners might be them not getting through these contracts and getting that sorted out before the season. But what is your outlook on if someone is hoisting the trophy at the end of the season or hoisting one of the conference trophies? Who do you view as someone you feel the most confident in being able to do that other than those two?
Other than the Niners and the Lions?
Other than no, the Niners and the Chiefs.
Sorry. Yeah. I thought we were
Yeah.
thinking of teams that could beat the Chiefs. Yeah. I mean, I feel perfectly comfortable writing the Chiefs into the AFC Championship game just because they haven't missed one during Mahomes' career as the starter. Um, I would still write the Niners into the NFC Championship game. I'm getting like day by day, I get a little more worried because Trent Williams is the best left tackle in football. He hasn't had a training camp. He's holding out. He wants a better deal. And Brandon Ayuk was an all pro last year and also hasn't had a training camp. I need both of these guys to be there if I'm going to have complete confidence in the 49ers. But for the time being, I would say the Niners. And then right after that, I think as crazy as it sounds, like what's not to love about Detroit? You know, like they should have been there last year. They had the Niners on the ropes. They bring everybody back from that team. They threw all this cash around in the offseason, you know, re-signing their star players, and they took steps to fix their defense as well. You know, they traded for Carlton Davis, who Saints fans might remember from his time in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers. They drafted Terry and Arnold, who went to Alabama. So I guess they're just collecting DBs that Louisiana fans just maybe don't like very much. So they've added a lot of talent in their secondary. They've got a lot of talent everywhere else. I really love the Lions. The other obvious one, like I said, when Joe Burrow's been healthy, you can count on the Bengals to win a lot of games and be a thorn in the Chiefs' side. So I'm really high on a bounce back year for them. Jamar Chase, he had his own contract situation, but he reported to practice this week and he's like, all right, I'm here. It sounds like Chase is going to give it a go. So you can count on him and T Higgins being together for at least one more year. So I like the Lions. I like the Bengals. If I had to pick one, man, you could pick a few. I mean, like I said, people are very excited by what Houston's got going on with CJ Stroud. They traded for Stephon Diggs, so they have a really nasty receiver core. They signed. I'll just keep bringing LSU elements into the mix. Daniil Hunter is in Houston now, straight off of a career year. So their defense with D'Amico Ryans as the head coach should be pretty good. I like Houston. We'll see about Philadelphia. Like the Eagles have all the talent in the world, but that's not why they fell apart last year. They lost 6 out of 7. The vibes seemed really, really weird. I'm not convinced everybody on that team always gets along. But it's a new year. They've brought in some new coaches. If they can get that together, they're as talented as any team in the league. So I think you got to mention Philly as well. And one more, I'll shout out the Packers because I'm really high on Jordan Love, what he did last year. They got a lot of talent on that team. So if they can keep that going, I think you got to watch out for them too.
You bring me great joy, both from understanding the assignment of shouting out the LSU and Louisiana guys, as well as at the off chance that Tyler Batiste gets 15 minutes into this and hears you talk about not liking the vibes of the Eagles. Also, a great win for the day. But you mentioned
Weird team, man. Weird team.
you mentioned feeling good about the Bengals bounce back opportunity, Burrow coming through some injury dynamics, getting the Jamar contract sorted out. And so that was a couple of guys, LSU guys that I was going to ask you about. The other member of that kind of trio, those triplets that we talked about so much a couple of years ago coming out of LSU, Justin Jefferson is in an interesting spot from a quarterback standpoint up there in Minnesota. As much as we've watched Jets do what he's done on Sundays the last few years, what do you make of what to expect for him and the situation that Vikings offense is in heading into the season?
I feel bad for Jets just because I feel like the Vikings are in a holding pattern now. They drafted JJ McCarthy, the national title winner out of Michigan, and there was a lot of doubt about McCarthy, and who knows, because unfortunately he got hurt in the preseason opener. One exhibition game into his NFL career, he got knee soreness. They decided to check it out. Come to find out, he needs a full-blown meniscus repair, and now he's done for the year. And so I'm not trying to tell you that JJ McCarthy was going to be great, but now we just don't know. We're going to have to wait a year to find out what the Vikings have in their top 10 pick at quarterback. Fortunately for Justin, I think he's going to ball regardless. Sam Darnold is the starter there. I mean, think about this, dude. Justin Jefferson, he missed 7 games last year. He had the hamstring strain. He missed basically half the season, and the Vikings lost Kirk Cousins roughly halfway through the year too. And he still had 1,000 yards. Like, I know, like, 1,000 yards isn't quite what it used to be in this pass happy era of football, but it's still very impressive to go 1,000 yards in 10 games without much in the way of a starting quarterback. Like, Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I wish we had gotten a better look at JJ McCarthy this year, but I think Justin Jefferson's going to be just fine as long as there is a quarterback on the roster in Minnesota. I am curious. Jamar is fascinating because, like, he staged a hold in this summer. He was at Bengals camp, but he just didn't practice because he wanted a new deal. He's obviously been incredible through the first 3 years of his career. Unfortunately for him, Bengals are very much like a family business. Like, some of these NFL franchises are like corporate conglomerations with all this money. Like, the Bengals are just Mike Brown and his family running things like it's a mom and pop shop. So the Bengals just aren't a team that's going to hand out a mega contract 2 years ahead of time, which is where Jamar is on his timeline. But I'm looking at it right now. So the guy, I mean, 30 touchdowns in 3 seasons, over 1,000 yards all 3 years, 1,200 yards last year, and that's despite Joe missing a significant chunk of time. If Joe and Jamar are both healthy this year, and Jamar goes off like I assume he will, he's going to be in line to top Justin Jefferson in the offseason. And Justin's at $35 million a year. I'm not going to be shocked if Jamar's asking price is like 38 plus million per season by the time he actually gets his deal. It sounds crazy. It's funny money, but that's where we're at with the receiver market. And I think anybody listening to this podcast would agree Jamar Chase is on the short list of receivers that you feel great paying that type of money to.
The successors in terms of a quarterback and receiver duo to Joe, Jets, and Jamar, the first round picks from this year, Jaden Daniels, the Heisman winner, heading to the Washington Commanders, Malik Neighbors, the record setting receiver, heading up to the New York Giants, and then Brian Thomas Jr., big play guy across the field from Malik, heading to Jacksonville. What's your outlook for those 3 guys? Obviously, particularly for Jaden and Malik, they go to situations that were, not great enough that those teams were really high draft picks. And say what you will about Brian Thomas a little bit later in the round in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously some, at best ups and downs in recent years for that franchise. What do you see or hope to see from them this year in their respective situations?
I think Malik is going to have such a great year while having such a bad time. This is going to be a real welcome to the NFL moment where it doesn't matter what your record is. Like, you've got to go out and do the job. And I mean, he's so talented. I'm sure, like, if you've seen the clips coming out of training camp, out of the preseason, I mean, his speed, his explosiveness, his acrobatic ability, the toe touches on the sideline, the over shoulder, like back shoulder balls he can catch. Like, I think even with a bad quarterback situation in New York, I think Malik is going to go, he's going to flirt with 1,000 yards or maybe go over that. I think he's going to be fantastic. Especially there's not much in the way of competition for touches in that offense. Giants receiving core, not very inspiring. Devin Singletary's the second best option on that offense, who, he's a solid running back. He's not Saquon Barkley, who is in Philly now. So I think like there's nobody else to get the ball in New York but Malik Neighbors. So I don't think the Giants are going to win a ton of games, but I think he's going to be great. I don't know what to do with Jaden, man. I'm so excited and so nervous for Jaden. I want it to go well so bad. Obviously, we all know what he can do as a thrower and as a runner, but Washington's offensive line is leaky, I guess, if we're being nice about it. It's a work in progress, and obviously he is a slight guy. I don't if you saw the preseason, Roser, he did one of his patented scrambles and made a great play, and he took a hit from a corner instead of getting down, and the coaches just lit into him on the sideline. I'm like, yeah, dude, like you shouldn't have been doing that in the SEC. You damn sure shouldn't be doing it in the NFL. Like, this is a terrible idea. So I think the world of his talent. I think if he stays healthy, I think he'll be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. But I just really need him to stay healthy. BTJ, I've gotten really excited about him just in the last like week or so, because like it's normal. You go to training camp and even first round picks can struggle to adapt to the speed. And like the early returns coming out of Jacksonville were just like, it's been whatever. He hasn't really flashed. The veteran corners in Jacksonville have been getting the better of him. And I was like, okay, well, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is going to need some time. And then in the last like 10 days, you just started seeing this constant drumbeat coming out of Jacksonville of like, oh, he's turning it on. Like BTJ is doing his thing. And the Jags did a joint practice with Tampa, and he was just lighting them up. And I talked to people with the Bucks who would know, and they were like, yeah, he's really good. Like he was really impressive. So is that going to translate right away? I don't know for sure, but I'm super encouraged that he's kind of like caught fire here in the second half of camp, which I think that's very encouraging. Like if you start slow, but like over the course of camp, you're picking it up and you're starting to flash more and more. So I was real low on BTJ like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm like, ooh, maybe he's gonna surprise some people. Maybe he'll be because I mean, the Jaguars, they let Calvin Ridley walk in the offseason. They need a number one, and if he's ready, that could be Brian Thomas Jr. And based on what everybody's been saying the last 2 or 3 weeks, I'm kind of starting to get my hopes up that maybe he's ready to hit the ground running.
Those receivers in particular, Malik, obviously it's every step of the way is that much higher of a level of competition, but he's doing things that I've watched him do since he was 14 years old. And so it's pretty cool to see him go to training camp in the NFL and do the same sort of things that we watched him as a youngster at Como. And then Brian has been interesting because as talented as he has been, as talented as anyone, it seems like it's taken him some time transitioning into, okay, I'm a varsity football player now. I thought I was a basketball guy, but now I'm this football guy, and then getting to LSU and it taking a little time. And so to see it seemingly clicking for him more quickly at this next level, whatever lessons he's learned or light bulb went off in his, I guess, second year at LSU, it seems to be paying some dividends that I don't know from an approach or mindset or whatever it may be standpoint that he's not having quite that same length of lull that he may have had at previous levels.
I hope that's the case. And like, we won't know for sure until the regular season starts, but the opportunity is there. Like I said, I mean, Jacksonville has decent receivers, but like they don't have an alpha. They don't have a wide receiver one unless it's Brian. And so, like I said, I'm super encouraged to hear that it kind of sounds like it started clicking for him, but we'll just have to see. Where like really, but ironically, or not really ironically, because he was drafted so high, but like I don't really have any of those concerns with Malik where I'm like, he already, like, I think he's a top 3 player on the Giants roster without ever having played a snap. And like, as long as he's healthy and available, I think he's going to produce. Like, I don't have any concerns about him.
That's the only reason he didn't come out of the gates in college. I mean, already setting things on fire is just he was banged up going into that freshman season. But from there's not there have not been a lot of other guys that I have dealt with that just have been quite to that degree, that same level of that kid is a dog at such an early age, and just the mindset that he's literally always had. And so, I'm as unsurprised as can be that he's doing what he's doing and just kind of continuing it along. We talked about so many fun, exciting things around the NFL, particularly for Louisiana ties. What can you say to give anyone here a level of optimism for the New Orleans Saints and where they are as projected as a potentially 7.5, 6.5 win football team? Concerns about their offensive line through a lot of the preseason. Not a lot of confidence from the fan base in Derek Carr. When you're hollering for we would love to see more of Spencer Rattler this early on. That says a lot about where you are, I think, as a fan base and your confidence level of the team and its current leadership. But what what do you see from the Saints, and is there anything to kind of latch onto and feel a little bit better than I think people here feel right now?
I don't think it's ever. I don't think it's ever as bad as it looks, especially like when like the Houdat Nation is like kind of in a spiral right now, where like just like negative energy feeds off negative energy. I mean, I guess if I'm looking for reasons to be optimistic, I think the Saints defense should be really good. Like obviously the thing that makes me concerned is just there's so much age on that side of the ball. Like Cam Jordan, obviously, Badger, obviously. Like you just got Demario Davis, obviously. Like you're just talking about a lot of guys that have played a lot of football. But if they can stay healthy, then the defense should be pretty damn good, and a good defense will keep you in a lot of games. And also, they play in the NFC South, which is definitely improved from what it was last year, but is still not like this juggernaut of a division. So that's about all I got. I guess hopefully and I will readily admit like Taliesin Fuaga was like dealing with an injury. He was dealing with injury during training camp. That's obviously like that's your big time first round draft pick. As he gets more comfortable and gets more reps, you would hope like the hope for a first round pick is that they're just going to get better and better and better and move on a line, improve on a line. So if he does that, it can raise the level of play of the rest of the offensive line a little bit. I don't feel good about that though. Like I don't want, I'm not trying to lie to people either. Like I don't see the Saints making a ton of noise this year, but
Yeah.
I don't think they're as terrible as social media would lead me to believe. Cause like I'll log on to Twitter or Instagram and it's just like, oh my God, are the Saints going to win a game this year? I'm like, yes, of course. Like they're going to win a game. Yes. Like they will win some games, but I just don't know how many.
That division dynamic, I feel like, has been the fool's gold, giving me a false sense of hope the past couple of years.
It's
Where,
true. You're right.
oh, I mean, they, yeah, they can sweep through that thing or go 5-1 or whatever the case may be, and as you mentioned, it should be improved. There's some expectations for a couple of those teams that maybe hadn't been there the last couple of years, or at least more realistic expectations. And so I look at that schedule, and as much as I want to say, they could realistically put some things together and be a 10-win team or whatever. I don't know that they're going to be able to
That
win
is
some of those games in the margins. And yeah,
I love the dynamic of that where like, we're doing this Louisiana based podcast and we're like, yeah, like they play in the NFC South. That should make their lives easier. And then like the Atlanta and Tampa versions of this podcast are like, well, Saints is 2 wins easy right there. Like we can count on the Saints for a couple wins this year because that's just how everybody feels in the preseason.
the NFC South for decades now. Essentially, somebody
Yeah.
different is going to win. If you didn't have a good season the year before, things flip so fast. We can do this.
I will say this one, like if I'm looking for a reason to be optimistic as a Saints fan, like remember because the playoffs rewrite everybody's expectations. Like the Bucks won a playoff game, and then they gave Detroit a game, and everybody was like, "Oh, the Bucks are amazing." But like with 2 weeks to play last year, it was right there between all three of those teams. Like
Hmm.
the Bucks could barely beat the Panthers, and the Falcons and Saints were right there behind them. Like as unenjoyable as the Saints were to watch last year, they were in the thick of it until the holidays. So, if the offensive line is a little bit better, maybe they could do something. I don't know how much I believe that, but it's not completely unrealistic.
So I'm going to mark you down for win the division and a playoff game, and give someone a game in the second round.
I'm
That's
not ready. I'm not ready to go that far, but hey, crazier things have happened. A team comes out of nowhere every single year. Why not the Saints?
Why not the Saints? There you go.
Why?
That
Yeah.
can be folks. That can be folks' takeaway. Man, appreciate you taking some time to chop it up for whatever we've been going a half an hour now.
Of course, man. Wait, but before I get out of here, I'll be honest. Like, I love college football, but it's the opposite for me. Like, I love college football, but I don't have time to be like dialed in. So, like,
100%. So we about to do 10 minutes on LSU now to close it out.
I don't need you to do 10 minutes, but like, um, okay. Obviously, I'm excited about Nuss. The offensive line should be one of the best in college football. Um, Kyron Lacey. Like who's the other receiver I need to know behind Kyron? And also, am I crazy for being as just over the top hyped as I am about Caleb Jackson? Because like I'm counting on him to just blow the hell up this year.
No, I mean, I'm optimistic about this LSU team. I think they're a realistic playoff team. You hit a lot of the high points. And it was funny talking about the same way we talked about Joe coming into the league and the Bengals offensive line being terrible, and now talking about Jaden coming into the league and the Commanders line being terrible. This offensive line for LSU is so good. And I mean, returns 4 of their 5 and replaces another with a guy that played some last year and they feel really good about. And so that sets the stage in and of itself. The level of continuity of Nussmeier being around for as long as he has, and the relationship he has with those guys and the receivers and Joe Sloan, I think there's a lot of expectation that this offense in particular is going to stay real good. Um, I think the running game is going to be strong. Josh Williams will be good as one of the leaders of that. Caleb Jackson is as talented as anyone in that backfield and should take that next step as a complete running back this year. The receiving group is deep. I would have looked at Kyron, and I would have thought Chris Hilton Jr., that this is finally his year. The biggest thing for him, as we talked about with a lot of the NFL teams, is can he stay healthy? And he's a little banged up right now and questionable for this USC game. And so that's been the biggest question mark for him the last couple of years, I think. But CJ Daniels, the prolific transfer from Liberty, and
The
then a
Liberty
lot of
guy.
other
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of other guys behind that trio that there's a lot of confidence in. And they also have 3 real guys in a tight end room that a few years ago was so bare that now all of a sudden you've got 3 guys that are legitimate starting tight ends that they're expecting big things from. And so you'll see kind of some different personnel things on offense as well. But I think the group will be really good. And then you just want to see how the defense comes together. And I don't think it can be as bad as it was last year.
I didn't ask about the defense on purpose, just because like I don't know. I don't want to fool. Whatever. It can't be any worse. It can't be worse than it was last year. So like anything is a step up. Did you
100%.
see?
That's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh that I think the offense will be really good again. Maybe not. I don't expect it to be as good as last year necessarily, where it was just unreal watching Jaden work, both his electric play and his relative efficiency of taking care of the ball despite making all of the big plays he was making. But I think the offense will be really good. And simultaneously, I think the defense has to be a little bit better. And I have so much trust in Blake Baker, Bo Davis, Corey Raymond, Jake Olson, all those guys to have a still good defense talent wise, maybe not one of the great LSU defenses, but solid in better position than they seem to be the entirety of last year and playing with better energy than they seem to be playing the entirety of last year.
Check this out, brother. Here's some in the weeds NFL news for you that pissed me off. Uh the LA Rams kept undrafted free
Yeah.
agent Omar Spates on their roster, and today, we're recording this on Tuesday, they traded away their best linebacker during roster cuts, which I don't know what their plan is for Spates, but their general manager was quoted as saying, like, we'll probably need him week 1. And I saw that and I thought to myself, this kid's good enough to potentially start for an NFL team as an undrafted rookie, and our defense looked like that last year. Like, I'll
Yeah.
never get over it. We like we we
It
might
was
have
bad.
missed a shot at a national title because our defense wasn't even like 50th in the country. It's embarrassing. It's
People here will
I
never forgive Matt House for that defense because
Nor
of
should
what
they.
what what they feel like was cost the program and specifically Jaden with the year that he had.
At the worst, we are in the playoff with like an average defense. Maybe we don't win 2 games, but we at least make it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what obviously, I mean, almost anybody would take what LSU has done over the last 20 years, but I just want us to get to that level of consistency where like we're not following national championships with 6-6 seasons. That would be great. Like making a playoff in a year where nobody really had expectations for us would be really fun, even if we didn't win the national title. So end of rant. Thank you for nothing, Matt House. I appreciate it.
There you go. Covering a lot of bases. David Helman helping me catch up with NFL, me kind of feeding into the consistent excitement this time of year for LSU football because I do think it has a chance to be a good year. Thanks again, man, for your time.
If you get a FaceTime from the strip on Sunday, I apologize in advance.
Hey, no apologies necessary. I look forward to all that. And if it goes anything like Will Campbell is telling us it should go, then it should be a really fun FaceTime late Sunday night.
Hell yeah.
He's David Helman, NFL on Fox podcast. Make sure you check it out. He's got his Twitter right there, Dave Helman. So go ahead and follow him for lots of NFL coverage and certainly a lot of perspective on the Cowboys that he covered for so long before branching out into the full league coverage. As always, for Louisiana versus all y'all, Jarrett Roser. Thanks y'all for watching.